Wake up to Bill Flynn in the morning.
Good morning. It is 8 minutes after 9:08. It is the Eagle Info Hour and the Love Your Lawn Hour with Jonathan Rigsbee, the Turf Commander with GrowinGreen. You can visit the website at growingreen.com. growingreen.com. I hate to put the stopwatch on us here, but really that's where we are. Our window to do what's got to be done this fall is about to close off. Jonathan, give us a feel for the kind of work that you're doing right now and the time window before you just have to say, hey, folks, you got to wait another year if you want that lawn.
Well, and, you know, you're right, Bill. We are closing down on fall seeding, but, you know, like I've said before, it's a year-round process. So when one window closes, another one opens. So as we start to close the fall seedings down, we start to get into leaf removal season, winterizations, dealing with insect problems on trees and shrubs for the winter to help, and all this and to prepare you for next spring.
Talk about use the term winterization. Now, what's going on with that, and what are the services you're looking to provide with winterization that maybe a lot of homeowners are maybe not doing or just barely doing right now?
Well, and one thing we're all guilty of is you go out and you work on the lawn and you put everything into it in this fall, and then you really don't touch it again. And it's important to continue to feed that lawn throughout the winter to make sure it has a good source of food, because the roots are still developing underground, especially on the new seedlings that you've put out. They still need the food. They still need the energy to be able to survive the winter. And what we're doing right now is a high potassium fertilizer to help them survive winter stress and just help them kind of get through the cold weather. And also, the biggest thing too is we've still got a few warm days and a little bit of growing left. So we want to get as much growth out of those new seedlings as we can before the winter gets here.
When you're putting the application, in this case, of high potassium fertilizer, you're putting that on the surface level. How does that ultimately get down into the plant system itself? What is the process that these roots have to go through, or that potassium itself, what has to happen to it in order to have an effective application?
Well, one thing that we have gone to doing is using biologically based fertilizers, and we call them bioactivated. So when we put them out, they're a lot more available to the plant. They don't have coatings on them. The plant can immediately take them up. And what we're trying to do is really build the soil up so that the soil can pull out of the plant. And by using the biosolids and the more organic fertilizers, we're able to replenish the soil, and then the plant can kind of naturally take it as it needs it.
Now, is the plant able to absorb some of these nutrients through the sprouts and through the blades of the grass itself, or does it all have to go through the root system in order to benefit the plant?
Well, good question. And we do a combination of both liquid and granular, and some nutrients will do better through the leaves. Some nutrients do better through the roots. We find that phosphorus and some of the micronutrients do better coming through the root system, and that's why this time of the year we're using a granular product. Nitrogen, iron, some of those products do better through the foliage. There are some granular iron products on the market, but they're not really effective. They're like putting rusty nails out in your lawn, basically.
Now, if I think many of us over the years have seen, for instance, either putting it on ourselves or having an application of a fertilizer, and maybe a little bit gets on a sidewalk or on a brick pathway, and you'll see that little white blob of, I'm not sure what it is actually, chemically, but you'll see that it kind of starts spreading a little zone around itself, almost like a huge raindrop. What am I looking at when I see that?
Well, basically, fertilizer is salt, and what you're seeing is just the salt breakdown of, it's either potassium salt or urea or ammonium nitrate, but they're all basically salt. So it would be the same effect of you putting salt on your driveway, basically. So, and that's one of the reasons it's important to blow the driveway off so you don't get that effect, but also to keep it from washing into the waterways. One of the reasons that we like to do liquid in the spring is when people put out granular pre-emergence and then they come back and they blow the sidewalk off, they're blowing it off the edge, and that's where it's most important to control crabgrass. Where with a liquid, we're able to actually go heavier on the edge by slowing the pattern down a little bit and giving it an extra dose in the areas where we know from experience you're going to have more breakthrough. And it's hard to do that with a granular product. The other advantage of a liquid, if it's done correctly, is you're getting total spread over the whole lawn, where on a granular, if you've ever noticed when you put it out, you have about 4 or 5 inches between each pellet. And you've got to rely on those pellets to make their way through the soil. And in the heavy clay soils that we deal with, that can be difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the crabgrass really likes the edge. Is that where it's kind of the nose, camel's nose under the tent, where it tends to get in and begin infestation into a lawn? Why is that the case, if so?
Well, really it's because crabgrass is a warm season grass, essentially. And you have more heat on the edge. Anywhere you have more heat, you're going to have less succulent tall fescue in the summertime, in early spring and summer, and that's where the crabgrass is going to win out. So you've got the edge, you've got the heat factor, you have people edging, weed eating on the edge, which breaks the pre-emergent barriers, and you just naturally, that's just a perfect environment for crabgrass to want to germinate in.
I've seen it enough times to know, but I've never known why until now that that is the case. And the homeowner that is doing the lawn maintenance here, you're prone to break down some of this barrier, you said.
Yeah, and we don't see it as much with homeowners as we do with commercial landscape companies who edge, which will mechanically edge every week or every other week, and they're actually taking, a stick edger and going down the sidewalks, and that is literally breaking down that barrier on the edge, and that's where we'll see crabgrass break through. But the biggest thing we see with homeowners is using a lower quality pre-emergent that comes on a granular. They put it out, they don't get a good even application, and then they blow it off the edge when they blow their sidewalks off. And so you have very little protection on the edge at that point. And then that's the first place crabgrass is going to germinate.
Other than a physical edger, do you have any, is it better to use a weed eater and turn it on its side for the edging? Does that matter? Or are you still going to break down that barrier potential?
You're going to break it down either way. And there's not a lot you can do to avoid it. And that's one of the reasons when we're doing the liquid applications, our guys will slow down and they'll go heavier on that area to get about a 30% higher barrier on those edges to keep it there.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Come back in a moment with our Growing Green Info Hour and Jonathan Rigsbee.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980 The Eagle.
All right, we got the lawnmower going. We're going to need the bagger here because we're getting up leaves. We're getting up the last of our grass clippings, leaving the good stuff we trust for working through the soil. By the way, I've heard different theories along the way. Excuse me, Jonathan. We're doing the Loving Your Lawn Hour. This is Jonathan Rigsbee with GrowinGreen, and he is the turf commander there. I've heard different theories along the way, and it may have to do with just the latest science, or maybe it's a trend. Some will say it's good to, let some of the lawn debris recycle onto your lawn. Others say take everything up and put it in a bag. If you want to make a mulch pile somewhere else, do that. What is your recommendation on taking care of the lawn, especially as we head into these months?
Well, and this might shock you, but the two things I don't do is bag my lawn and water my lawn. And other than establishment, I've never put a sprinkler on my lawn. And as far as mowing goes, I'll mow it, let the clippings lay, because what they do is they return nutrients back to the soil. Grass clippings are 90% water. And once they dry out, then they just compost right back in. Now, if you haven't mowed your lawn for 3 weeks and it's going to be unsightly, you need to kind of get them up because they're going to end up smothering the grass. But on a regular week, a mulching mower is by far the best thing for your lawn, for the environment. You don't have to worry with the bagging. You don't have to worry with any of that stuff. And if you say, you know, oh, my grass is growing too fast, we actually have a product that we apply in the summertime that will cut your mowing in half.
And what is it actually telling the grass don't grow so much, take the energy and put it in the roots, or what is it doing?
Well, and that's exactly what it's doing. It's not shutting the plant all down. It's actually redirecting it. And it basically it stops the cells from elongating in the plant. So you have these small cells versus bigger cells, so you're not getting the growth. And what we tell people is it's going to cut your clippings down by 50% for 6 weeks. And we do it generally after you've mowed the lawn a couple times in the spring. We'll do it a lot of times with our second application, and then our third one, or our third and fourth one, which is around May, and then again the end of June. But it's probably the most underused tool that we have in our tool belt. And the beauty of the product is it actually makes the plant more stress tolerant. It makes it healthier. It makes it tighter. We can take common Bermuda grass that looks real wiry and long and kind of ugly and make it look like a hybrid with it, because it shortens it up and it takes those long runners out. We do it on bed edges to help with edging and weeding. We do it on fence lines. A lot of high schools will put it in their paint so they don't have to paint their lines as often because the paint's not growing back out of it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful product. And, you know, if we're doing somebody's lawn, we just mix it in for them, and it's a bargain. I mean, it's just...
Well, compared to the whatever the cost is of that product, I mean, the reality is how many trips on the riding mower and emptying the bags are you saving by not doing that as often? Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. And we look at it like, you know, if you take a 10,000 square foot lawn, it's going to cost you about $60 to add the product in. So if you're in the heat of the season and you're mowing twice a week and you save 6 mowings for $60, to me, it's a no-brainer. You know, the beauty of it, like I say, is after you do it twice, that's when the stress tolerance comes in, and a lot of the ancillary benefits come in from the plant just getting healthier. And I keep it on my grass almost year-round, and it makes a huge difference. So, you know, there's a lot of things out there that are not available to the public through the lawn and garden stores that the professionals have that can dramatically make the homeowners' lives better and give them their time back.
If you've got a big swath of grass and you know that you're enjoying that time out on the mower a little bit less as you get older, this is a great way to really kind of bridge that gap to keep the beauty of the green that you want and the health of the plant, but not be spending as much, you know, twice a week or whatever it is you're doing out there. I didn't know that was out there. What is that product service called? It's
called Primo. It's made by Syngenta, which is a local company here in Greensboro. And it's just, actually, when I got out of college, I went around and was a rep for the product and did demonstrations for colleges and golf courses. And I saw some things in my demonstrations that would just blow your mind how much better it made the plant. And we've used it ever since. It's just, you know, it's always been a little bit of a hard sell because people say, well, I enjoy mowing the grass. And then what we tell people is you still go out and mow, but instead of having to deal with all the clippings, deal with bagging your clippings, having to mow twice a week, you now mow once a week. It takes about 2/3 of the time. You're on, you're off, you're blowing off. You're not dealing with all the extra stuff that comes with mowing the lawn. You're able to actually enjoy mowing it again versus all the headaches of the clippings and the stuff that comes with it.
I think the enjoyment for a lot of folks when it comes to, you know, doing yard work is you don't want to have to be checking your watch every few minutes because you build that stress. You know, if you can just say, hey, I'm going to I'm going to be able to do it for this window, and then you're not being engulfed by these demands of your time. It does make the time that you do spend out there potentially a lot more enjoyable, because you're not racing the clock to get it done because you found more time in this case by.
Well, it does, and it makes the lawn a lot healthier when you're done, especially in the spring when we've had rain for 4 days in a week, and you couldn't get to it for 10 days, and now it's a little higher than you want it to be.
You can't find your dog in the backyard.
Yeah, your dog's lost.
He's somewhere back there.
Back there somewhere, and it's just a tool to help make it more enjoyable. And like everything, when it first comes out, it was expensive and with the patents on it. But now that it's a little bit older, it's a little more affordable.
We will continue with our Growing Green expert, Jonathan Rigsbee, on AM 980 The Eagle.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. Bill Flynn this morning with our lawn expert. And Loving Your Lawn Hour continues with Jonathan Rigsbee of Growing Green. And by the way, if you have a question, something specific about your lawn this time of year, you're always welcome to call us or call directly to the office. And that's 1-866-LAWN-HELP. Easy to remember. 1-866-LAWN-HELP. You can also visit the website. A lot of great information. There's some blogs that are on there, some timely things for the season to talk about, to know about, from truly expert advice. And it's not just the advice of somebody in a scientific setting, that you do offer that. It's somebody that spent literally years applying that scientific knowledge to this area of the country in particular. And I think there's a special combination. Would you address that just a little bit, Jonathan?
Well, and I think that is definitely one of the things that sets us apart. Is a lot of our national competitors, their agronomic programs are written out of Ohio. They're written for the Southeast. They're written for a region. Ours are written for Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem. And I write them myself. And like I say, I started out working for a company, and I'll never forget the day I was 18 years old, and they came in and they said, "We fired everybody here but you and one other person. Here's a route, here's a map, and here's a truck. Go out and service our customers." And I kind of had to figure it out as I went. And, that's kind of the way I learned. And then when I went to school, I kind of did it backwards. I kind of figured out why I did what I knew. But it all comes back to taking care of the customer and taking care of the individual need. And what we do is we look at every lawn differently. I put out an agronomic program for our guys to follow, but they have the full capability to change it as they see fit. When we do a soil test on every customer and they get it back and it's low on phosphorus or there's a problem, then they can change that program to make sure the customer's taken care of. Obviously, I can't get out and see 3,000 customers, but we have some really good trained guys who do that. And, whether you're doing it yourself or have a service, it's all about who's putting it out and the program they're using. And that's really what makes the difference. Where's it from? Are you putting out a program that was written in Ohio for bluegrass? Or are you putting out something that deals with the issues that we deal with here, like brown patch, grubs, heat? We go from one extreme to the other, and you've got to condition your lawn for that.
Can you talk really specifically, too, about Forsyth County, Winston-Salem, some of the deficiencies in the soil that you expect to find right now when you intend to, for the maximum moment, to repair that, to massage that? We often talk about this is a system, and there are points along the way you need to do things. But what about right now? What would you expect if somebody's having some problem and it has to do with soil deficiency? What would it likely be now?
Well, what we see a lot of right now are low phosphorus levels, especially in new neighborhoods. A lot of people say, "Oh, I've got red clay," and they'll sigh, and I'm thinking, "Oh, great, we can grow grass in red clay all day long." Well, where we struggle is when we get to new developments that are all sand rock, where they've stripped away the old soil and they've brought in backfill that basically is sand and rock. and mixed together, and that's what it looks like. And we find that it has 0 nutrient holding capacity, 0 phosphorus, and we basically have to start from scratch. So what you end up seeing is your lawn will come up and it just won't thrive for a couple of years until we build those reserves up. And we call it the nutrient pool effect. We have to build the nutrients in the pool. And it takes a couple of years to do that, especially on lawns that are brand new, don't have a lot of history on them, where the soil's been changed out. And, that's probably the biggest thing that we see now. When we go into older neighborhoods like Buena Vista, some of the older areas, and those lawns have been there for years, usually shade's more of an issue. But from a soil standpoint, being deficient, it's usually going to be on a newly done lawn. And one of the big things that we're able to do that a lot of other people aren't able to do is a lot of times you can have a soil test and it'd be perfect and you still can't grow grass. And we check, the sun, we check water, we check runoff, we check all the things that we kind of go through our list. And sometimes you'll find that the plant just cannot take the nutrients out of the soil. They're there, but they're bound up. And what we have to do is unlock them. And there's certain ways we can unlock those nutrients by, applying certain products, adjusting their CEC or the cation exchange ratios to get the plant to take them up. And the way we are able to test for that is we go out and we'll do a soil test. And then we'll go out and do a tissue test. And we'll actually check how much is in the plant, in the tissue of the plant, compared to what's in the soil, and see if it's actually taking it up. Or if there's a ton of phosphorus in your soil, but there's none in your plant, then that's a pretty good indicator there's something else going on. And, that's where we set ourselves apart. We have the ability to do that and get that personal with people's property to kind of look for those solutions.
Yeah, when you said, folks sometimes say, I got clay, I can't grow anything, and you say you can grow all day, every day. What is it that you're doing to the clay, and why is that even an advantage in some cases?
Well, the one thing about red clay, or the native soil that we have here in Winston-Salem, is it has great nutrient and water holding capacity. It generally can hold on to the nutrients. It doesn't dry out as fast, and it creates a good environment for tall fescue to live in. Now, where we have warm season grasses like Bermuda grass and St. Augustine, they like a sandier soil. They don't like their feet wet. And they do better in sandier soils like in Florida and areas like that. But, it goes back to adapting what fits this area. And we know the red clay, holds nutrients well, holds water well. So it's giving it the right amount of fertilizer, the right amount of water, but not too much. And that helps really the plant survive.
All right, we're going to take a short break, come back with our final segment of our Loving Your Lawn Hour with Growing Green, GrowinGreen.com, and the Turf Commander is Jonathan Rigsbee. You can join us at 896-1980, and you can also call directly Growing Green at 1-866-LAWN-HELP, 1-866-LAWN-HELP.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980, The Eagle.
Good morning. The final segment of our Growing Green Hour, our Loving Your Lawn Hour with Jonathan Rigsbee of Growing Green. And the website is growingreen.com, GrowinGreen.com. This just not a double G in the middle, just a one G, growing, one G, REEN.com. One thing I wanted to bring up, and it's more of a personal anecdote, though I think there are probably a lot of homeowners that have tried to do this in years past. And it has to do with, gosh, I have this really nice bush or this really nice section of lawn that I'm going to dig up. I'm going to put some rock work in or whatever. I know. I'll just dig up this grass that's really healthy. and I'll go put it over here where I need some help, where I have some issues, or I'm going to move this plant, this bush is growing all right, looks good, but I want it in a different location and want to make room for something else. And very seldom, I've done this enough to know, very seldom is the success quotient real high, especially when it comes to grow, a chunk of grass or something like that. What can you do that at your house?
Well, we have a term for that, and we call it "Don't turn a $10 plant into a $100 afternoon." And you will spend more time trying to dig that plant out, and trying to get the roots that are down there and that have gone down for years is almost impossible. So, I've rarely had success, especially moving grass, because tall fescue, there's not a netted natural root system like Bermuda, so when you're growing sod, they put netting down. So when they cut it, the netting kind of holds it all together. And that's why you really can't do it at your house, because it just falls apart. And there's nothing to really hold it all together, as one piece.
Do you tend to shave off, for instance, if you, on the fescue, the root system as you're digging it out? How deep are those roots if you really want to have a shot at this?
Well, we actually did a contest for one of the organic products we did last year, and we had roots at 9 inches. And
man, that's a lot of dirt to dig down.
It's a lot of dirt, and you don't necessarily have to go that deep, but you've got to get, 2 to 3 inches for survival. But again, it's a lot of work. That's a lot of heavy soil.
And it doesn't hold together. You got no way to.
It doesn't hold together.
Yeah.
You've still got to dig out the other side where you're putting it so it fits down in there like a puzzle. I would highly suggest you go somewhere that sells sod by the piece and buy a couple pieces of sod that has netting in it. It's going to hold together, and put it down. You can kind of rough up the area a little bit, get a little bit of the soil out to compensate for the thickness, and it's going to survive a lot better. And you're going to have a lot less work and trouble into it than just doing it the other way.
You mentioned one of the challenges is in a new lawn where you maybe have a brand new development or new construction, and somebody's gone in and pulled out all of the topsoil, and you're left now with a lot of sand and rock, and that's a challenge. On the other side, for a really well-established lawn, a neighborhood that's been around for 40 years, what are the problems that you can get into with a mature soil that you have to look out for in this, again, right in this region here?
Well, for lawns that, like we've had a lawn on sale in the program for 10 years. It's doing great. It's still going to have weed problems. It's still going to have disease problems, especially now. When I first started, we didn't really do fungicides for brown patch. Now, probably 40% of our customers are on a brown patch program because it will wipe the fescue out. So, we're seeing different challenges every year with the environment changing, different varieties of grass. As trees mature in a lawn, it changes the microclimate of the house. It may have less sun than it did 5 years ago. We see that, we see a lot of people say, oh, well, I had great grass up until y'all started. Well, that was before the tree grew up and started shading it. So a lot of stuff like that, you've got to adjust as it kind of changes.
Mm-hmm. We have a caller from Kernersville this morning. Norman, good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
And welcome to our Loving Your Lawn Hour. I hope you're loving your lawn. And you have a question for our expert this morning, Jonathan Rigsbee. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a lot of moss in our lawn, and it's in sunny areas and shady areas, and we have lots of trees, but it seems to be all over the place. Just wondered how I could get rid of that.
Well, the first thing that you really need to do is identify what's causing it. A lot of people will automatically say you've got a low pH, and that's not always the case. So have you done a soil test?
Yes. Well, not officially. The lawn service people have stated that there is no pH issue here.
Well, And the only way to really tell that is through a soil test. I mean, I can't look at a lawn and say pH is off or not, but they're free. We'll be glad to come out and take one for free for you and send it off. That's going to kind of dictate how you address the moss. Most of the time, if you've got moss in a sunny area, it's poor drainage and it's too much water, basically. Water sitting on top of the soil. If it's like mold in your bathtub, when the water sits there, you're going to get fungus growing. And that's basically what the moss is. So a lot of times the heavy clay soils will not allow water to drain through properly. And probably the best thing to start with is a good aeration program to help improve the drainage of the soil. The next thing that you can do, you can go out and rake it up. There are certain products that will suppress the moss from coming back, like heavy iron applications. You can buy products like Ironite. They sell it at Lowe's in Kernersville there, and you put it out a couple of times in the spring and summer when that moss is first starting to come back, and it will burn that moss back. And but I would really suggest you getting a soil test, a physical soil test in your hand, and see what that pH is first. And then go.
Did you say you could do
aeration.
that as a service?
We would be glad to come out. If you will go to our website and send us your address, we'll be glad to come out at no charge and do a soil test for you.
Okay.
And Norman, do you know the website? It's GrowinGreen.com, and I definitely take advantage because a friend of mine in radio once said, if it's free, it's for me. And I think that applies for you too, Norman. I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Good information.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
is.
very much.
Thank you for the phone call and for illuminating the audience. I know moss problems tend to develop, I know, on roofs a lot in this part of the country, too. You'll see that little mold or moss or whatever growing a lot of times on the northern exposure side of the roof. It's a problem.
It's definitely a problem. And, we get a lot of humidity. We get a lot of rain. And then we get a lot of temperature, high temperatures. And it just, rarely do we have a day we don't have high humidity with our heat. So, fungus is going to grow, and that's why we're seeing more fungus in the lawns. That's why you see moss problems. That's why you see fungus at the house. So, it's all basically the same issue. It's just poor air circulation.
It can be slippery, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like on a sidewalk or something like that, you can start skating around, and that's, as a homeowner, you want to avoid that whenever possible, too.
You do, and like, the one thing that we'll do, too, is you may have areas that may not be good for growing grass if you have too much shade, and we would want to identify that. But generally, if you've got moss in the sun, it's a poor water drainage issue.
Before we run out of time, this is the window of aeration. We've talked about that some, of seeding, and that window is rapidly closing. Are we at the midnight hour just about on that?
We are. It's we've had some good warm days here lately and good moisture, but this week is probably, we're going to close it out. We're starting to do a lot of touch-ups right now, a lot of follow-ups on our customers, second fertilizations. So now leaves are going to start coming down here soon. Definitely, if you're going to seed, now's the time to do it.
And those leaves and seeds don't work together so well, and trying to stay ahead of that is so important. I mean, is any advice you got for homeowners just staying ahead of the leaf issue? I know it can overwhelm us, especially folks like me. We got a lot of trees. Well,
and that's it. You've got to stay ahead of it and just go out there and try to blow them off. And if you're seeding this late, just keep them blowing off as much as you can. That seed will come up in the spring, but you definitely need to keep the leaves off of it.
All right, well, that will conclude our segment this week, and we'll look forward to Jonathan joining us next time around. Jonathan Rigsbee, the Turf Commander at GrowinGreen.com. If you want to call the company directly, it's 1-866-LAWN-HELP. 1-866-LAWN-HELP.